Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hi, and welcome to Around the World Today, episode 11 of series 3, and I'm Terry D. And we're talking about, as you can see from the name of this episode, party political games. Why are they playing it? So in the last few weeks, I found myself even more angry at party political games being played. And you can see it, in this time of a plague that we know as coronavirus or COVID-19 in the United Kingdom. They're playing party political games with something like devolution. And now devolution to me is effectively federalisation in everything bar name. If you're listening to this from United States, Canada, Australia, and other federalised states. Now, we have the government of Westminster, and then we have the 4 home countries, the 3 Crown Dependencies, and the 14 British Overseas Territories, or United Kingdom Overseas Territories. And this is what effectively makes up the United Kingdom. And in all, I believe it's 21 nations. Please, maybe one out, so it could be 20 little nations. That the United Kingdom government actually act for, but they only effectively really run the day-to-day life of one of them, and that's England. So we're going to move on a bit, and we have, like I've said, devolution differs from federalisation in that the powers of the substantial authority may be temporary or reversible, ultimately residing with central government. So Westminster can control and remove the devolved administrations. Now, in the United Kingdom, we have this. As you can see, there's different, membership types, and it's all controlled by Westminster. So I've got one, because there's so much that England can control in such a foreign policy, immigration, and we're seeing this with the immigration policy right now. We forget that immigration policy posted within the United Kingdom the mainland United Kingdom also affects our overseas territories, Crown Dependencies too. The same with foreign policy and trade. Now, to me, it's time that for the United Kingdom to actually be equal, that we federalise, and everyone of those 20 members have their own government and administration administering their needs. And then on top, we have a federal government. What have we learned from COVID-19, people? Come on. Right now, parliaments around the world are meeting virtually. So there's no excuse why the United Kingdom's federal government or federal parliament couldn't meet via Zoom in a chamber of Westminster. Not every one of the MPs actually has to be in Westminster of a federal United Kingdom. This will also allow the other places, such as Wales, to control the day-to-day life of the Welsh. Now, I've been called a racist for saying that Welsh people are different from English. Sorry, but it's a fact. We are 2 separate nations, just like Gibraltar is separate from us. They have their own cultures and territories. Yes, they're intertwined and we're all British, but come on, when we're telling them they're only a colony, and we're 4 home countries, and then you've got the English government that aren't listening to the rest and just acting willy-nilly. And one thing that comes back to my mind is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson, recording a 10-minute televised address to the whole of the United Kingdom that really applied to only one of those members. England. This went out across the whole. So it would have been seen in Gibraltar. He is the Prime Minister of them as well. Theoretically, yes, they have their own Chief Minister and First Minister and Parliament and head of the judiciary. But theoretically, he is their Prime Minister too, but they don't get a say or a vote. The same with Northern Ireland. Effectively, they don't vote for this man. Scotland didn't vote this man in. And Wales didn't vote for this man. They all voted for different parties. Yes, they've sent their representations to Westminster, but they did not vote for this government. That was done by England. Now, how is that fair? Especially when, for Westminster elections, the overseas territories and Crown Dependencies do not get to send any representation. How is that fair? Parliament bills on foreign policy, trade, even immigration, and others go through Westminster that affect them. But they don't get a say. Now, we were talking about in Brexit about us, by all accounts, being a subservient state to the European Union and bowing down and kowtowing down to the European Union. How about those who kow down to Westminster, to England? Well, England imperialism ended in the 1400s. When a Welshman took the throne of England. But anyway, I digress. So, if the United Kingdom, or even the Conservative Party didn't want devolution of public health, could someone ask me why in 1962, under a Conservative government, was public health of the United Kingdom split between Public Health Scotland, Wales, and England? Then effectively Northern Ireland too, in 1969, when the Troubles happened. So, if they didn't want devolution of public health, so splitting it up from being one United Kingdom approach, why were they doing it in 1969? It's been a Conservative Party point since, 1962. So why in 2020 are they arguing it's not working when it's worked since 1962 and it was your own party that did it? So take the advice of the people instead of, going to Parliament and saying, you didn't even do that first. You did it the wrong way round, Boris. You're not doing it properly. There's a way of doing it. And then you've got the fact that the government are putting out, if they don't like something in the media, they'll put out a tweet, a whole tissue and catalogue of lies. And I just worry about this. And they're playing from Donald Trump's playbook. Here, they're playing from the Trumpian playbook. But they put in a British style in it by putting a blog post. But if you read the blog post and then, read the stuff that's come out about it, it turns out it's wrong. From their own sources. Now, I worry about this. The lack of PPE I worry about. Jacob Rees-Mogg said that people blame people for not having common sense during Grenfell Tower, and now they're expecting people to have common sense over COVID-19. This is from a party that's been in power for more than 10 years. Now, how can you trust them if they are writing reports and after every other word it is saying, and it read quite considerably, I'm just looking at my notes, people. I have notes today. So, yes, how can you trust the government when in the report that they put out after the statement, it said in every second line of the document, like the rest of the world, we have paid a heavy price. Now, what it should have said is, like other countries that fail to act quickly and decisively, we have paid a heavy price. No among preparing over the cracks is going to give the government a get-out-of-free jail card. This country is fed up of the spin and dishonesty, and the public are not stupid. We see through it. We know what happens in other countries. We know how many people here have died. If you don't, do you know what I mean? You need to wake up and you need to be looking what's going on in the world, how other countries are acting. Now, the government come out saying not to compare with other countries. Now, at first they were comparing with other countries. Now, because it's looking like the government were wrong, no. Then you haven't seen Boris Johnson, besides his, mandatory Prime Minister's questions, for weeks. Weeks! Boris don't care. Now, what that should have just said is, what they need to do is just say sorry. They got it wrong. And now have a credible plan. Then they might get a little bit more respect when you ask for public support. Then you have Parliament. His afternoon trip to Parliament, that was just hilarious. They're using things like Captain Tom Moore, who is a very good man. Do you know what I mean? I don't take away, but they're using stuff like this to shine on it, to defect from the information and defect from their dishonesty, their lies, their incompetences. They've been in power for 10 years. There was a whole playbook written on how to handle a pandemic that the government chose not to enact. The Conservative wolves will come out for our dear friend Boris Johnson, like it always does.
Click, listen, enjoy.
Now, the Conservative Party like to come out if, they'll leave him handle this. Look what happened with Theresa May. When it was getting out of hand, they replaced her. They will do it to Boris. It's party first with these people. Now with all of this debt, you've got people arguing for austerity and more austerity, and Boris is saying, no, well, fact of the matter is, if they're going to have to put austerity, they'll do it. It's the party that wins, not the person in number 10. They can lose support of the party. This is what it is. Do you know what I mean? We're living in the United Kingdom. The fact of the matter is that, the economy issues that's been going on have been the economy, it's because this country's economy has been abused for the last 10 years by the Conservative government. It's quite reckless. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember hard immunity? When Boris came out with hard immunity, the best thing about hard immunity is that the government told us they wanted to do it, and that backfired, didn't it? Then they carried out, hard immunity under the cover of walking Tom Major and clap for the NHS. Then they coated it with lies about getting PPE. Don't do it, all while making it seem if it's your fault of, that if this virus spreads around the UK. But where I do not, they weren't alert enough, were they, really? So don't be fooled. This country has never really been on a lockdown, is it? If you really think it has. It's been slightly close the door, pop out if you need to, system, made to look like a lockdown while, people were just left to die. And this is surely what the government wanted. We just had a nice little holiday, really. Haven't we? Some of us, anyway. My mum has been going to work. I know nurses, doctors who have been going to work. Not everyone has had the luxury to have time off. But anyway, they are my thoughts. Please read the blog that goes with this. There is a longish article that I have written that goes with this. I hope you're all well, and thank you for tuning in to this episode. And I will catch you next time. Bye.
Click, listen, enjoy.